kidding, yeah. What process, what mind process do you recommend to get from there to flow state as you're talking about? That would be my question.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for asking that wonderful question. Perfect, thanks. I can't see hardly getting annoyed, but
Yes.
even
I'm sure
hard.
there's a lot of other questions in the room.
Yes, any other questions? But you know what, I'm going to just gather questions first. Perhaps I can go around, right? Feel free to pass, right? So, and we'll go around, because I want to make sure, you see, when there's a question in your mind, it's so much easier to sort of make it your truth, right? And then we'll tie it to something that we can all experience. So I don't want anybody to believe anything except your own experience. And that, you know what, you know why that's important? Because that's what comes up in the flow state. Okay? When you're in the moment, your body will react in a truthful way. Okay? So that's why whatever you learn has to be experiential. Because that is the one you don't have to think about. You don't have to try. You just get there. Okay, so any other questions? So what happens when we find ourselves, quote unquote, annoyed? What is that? How is that different than the flow state? And, okay, I won't put any more words to it just yet. We'll come back to it. Anybody else? It could be a challenge, similar. Yes, please.
I was trying to think how to put this. So how does culture / religion,
Just so we can all hear.
how does culture / religion combined or separately affect some of our behaviors and experiences?
Okay, so thank you very much. Culture, religion, okay? So those are what I would call not necessarily experiential, right? Because it's variable. For example, if I put hot pepper on my tongue, right? If I hot pepper on your tongue, see, you know what hot pepper is called? Capsaicin is a chemical, basically induces pain. Pain sensation on your tongue is the experience. Is there? Oh, George left already. Eh? He had to go away to study relations and functions. So he had a math class. The experience of spicy food is a function of three things, right? The first thing is actual sensation, which is the same. Basically, we all have similar kind of tongue, right? You put capsaicin on it, induces pain. No different than a needle sticks in your skin. It's called pain. Okay? So your experience depends on three things. It's a function of three things. One is the sensation. Two is the culture determinant, right? Actually, the second one would be called attention. If you're not paying attention, people slip a little hot pepper in your tongue, and you're going across looking at this wonderful person in front of you, you're not even notice that it's a spicy food, right? If you really engage in a conversation, you will not notice the spiciness of the food. If somebody put a little hot pepper in it, right? Or a soldier carries his, comrade carries his friend across the fire line, he's just want to survive. He's not paying attention to the pain. The fact that shrapnel in his leg, or has a broken leg, he doesn't notice the pain because he's running, right? Because he's not paying attention. So sensation, attention, and the third one is your culture. It's how your judgment against the sensation, which is a label. So for example, hot pepper on your tongue, if you're born in a culture which likes spicy food, you will end up with saying, oh, I really like this food. If you're born in a culture which doesn't like spicy food, you say this tastes awful, right? So you can have opposite experience with the same sensation, right? So when it comes to things like strictly the knowledge that people teach you in terms of religion and culture, those are conditioned. This belongs to the third part. It's very much dependent. It depends on which culture you're from. You have a different experience that you would label, for example, that differently. In Chinese it would be a different word. So culture and religion, right? They're actually information that comes into the brain. Okay, let me pause there for a second. Maybe I'm getting a little too far away. Let's keep going. So we'll come back to that because very important point. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, please.
With flow state,
Hi.
flow
Rose.
state, does that mean that I just picture someone laughing carefree? I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. And if there's like a financial strain or, stuff going around in life that's a little tough, like a person that is in a flow state, how do they, in the way you see things, how do they function? Or are they affected, and are they influential to others, and in turn, do they take on any, like, it just seems like what you're saying, this flow thing, it's not 24 hours, right?
Okay.
Come on.
Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's keep going.
Yeah.
Let's keep going because, okay, we're going to address that. We're going to address that. We're going to address that. Okay, there's some similarity between these two questions. Very similar because when you catch yourself annoyed, right? Let's say, or you catch yourself worried about your financial issues at that moment,
Or something.
or whatever it is, right? It could be anything, you know, any kind of things that catches you. So I would suggest a framework later on based on your experience. So we'll come back to that. Well, first we'll go through the question, and then we're going to do a little exercise. And then we're going to go to an exercise where you can relate to, and after that, we'll pop all those answers in place. Based on that exercise, based on the experience you take away from that exercise, which is your own experience, right? So you'll have a framework, which is your experience, and we'll plug all those things in place. Okay, now, anybody else? So we talk about anything that annoys you, anything that kind of gets you out of the flow state, like how do you get back into it? Like you caught yourself, I want to be a peaceful guy, you know, but I'm getting annoyed. Right? Yeah.
Can you be a young person
Mhm.
that's an overthinker?
It's all possibility. Age is kind of a funny thing, okay? Like it could be kids. It's very easy for kids to be in the moment. A baby is always in the moment. Okay, so that's a clue as to why we get not out of the moment.
Right.
A baby is always in the moment. The dog is always in the moment. A cat is always in the moment, just about. They don't get looped. Very rare to have an OCD cat, you know? It's not that common. I'm sure they exist. Somebody will tell me that's not. Checks on everything, you know? There might be one or two of those, but most of the cats, most of the dogs are in the moment, most of the babies are in the moment, right? They're a little bit different by the time they start to differentiate. This one worries more, this one doesn't, right? And some of them start to get into the worrying kind of adult, right? And this one is just always in the moment. Those people who are not here, they're probably having a good time out there. They don't need this. Who knows, right? So okay, we're gonna come back to it. Age is a funny thing, but sometimes you can't tell. I would say I don't want to generalize based on age, okay? But let's talk about that later too. Anybody else? Any like we talk about mental health challenges, right? Anything in that area that people want to bring up? Yes.
How do you get that inner roommate that's always chattering in your head, and it's always talking to you,
Mm-hmm.
and it's saying useless stuff to you sometimes, or else it's trying to convince you otherwise?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get to quiet that down? To the
Beautiful
max,
question. Okay,
so
so
that it just stops this silly nonsense going on in your brain.
right. At this point, I would just add that one thing. There's a voice that's busy, and there's another voice that says, I'm busy. That's another voice, you see. It's the same voice, it's just another voice. You see? There's more than one voice. And there's a voice that says, oh my God, the voice is trying to tell the voice to stop. That's another voice. Right? There's a lot of voices. It just keeps getting more complicated. And the voice says, I have to have more self-compassion. That's another voice. Okay. It just goes on and on. The more you read, the more voices you're going to get. And the baby doesn't do that, by the way. The baby didn't read those books. The dog's never read that book. Your cat never read that book. Right?
Especially cats.
Yeah, they don't have that problem. They just own the place.
They do.
Right? They do.
They just do.
They just do.
I'm
My Zen master, right? It's my cat.
yeah, cats.
Right? They always say that. Okay, anybody else? Yes.
For me, what can bring up anxiety and is when I'm multitasking and then I'm getting pulled away in other directions. Like if something comes and distracts me, or like another task comes up. If I'm doing frontline work, for example, and I keep getting interrupted and it's difficult to put my concentration back to what I was doing.
I love that question. Okay, you see, anxiety, you use the word annoyance. We never define a bunch of words, right? Those are words, labels of an experience. It's like yellow light. It's a label of a sensory experience. The word anxiety is a label, okay, of something. What is the labeling? What is the word annoyance, labeling? Those are very important things. We're going to label we're going to break it right down to your experience, so you know what it is. Okay, we're going to come to that. And if you're like doing a task and somebody says, you know, honey, come and eat, and you go, oh my God, I don't want to eat. I want to finish this job. You know, why are you bothering me, right? Right? Kind of like that. I get in trouble for that. I learned. Okay, anybody else? Yes, Wuvan.
Well, when you lose someone, you go in a grief kind of situation momentarily. But when you see circumstances or objects related to that person or things related to that person, those memories pop up in that moment of grief. I mean, grief comes again. So how we can cope up with that moment, which is coming frequently over the years.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you very much. So we have lots of stuff. Okay, we have the word annoyance, we have the word anxiety, and we have the words where, oh my God, I catch myself overthinking, right? And then we have the thing where memory comes up. Or this memory, or certain things that you see, let's say memorabilia, anything, a picture, whatever it is, could be music, that triggers certain memory that shows up in your head. You don't plan for it to show up, it just shows up. And all of a sudden, you find yourself have this experience of being sad, or grieving, or feeling, down, right? So that experience, let's say I feel down, okay? I feel anxious, I feel annoyed, right? Those are all words, right? They're labeling something, aren't they? What are they labeling? Same thing, okay? We're going to break it right down to those very simple experiential truths, and then we'll understand what's going on. And it's an awareness that we will have. Anybody else? We might have enough, but I just want to make sure everybody can relate to this experience that's already shared. And if there's something different than that, I would love to hear first. Yes?
Talk about mental health.
Yes.
And you're a doctor.
Yes.
How imperative is it, say I'm diagnosed with some depression,
Yes.
over a loss of a loved one,
Yes.
many, many years ago?
Yes.
Do I need to be on an antidepressant for the rest of my life? How important is that pill?
Okay, we're going to talk about that, okay? Antidepressant, what is an antidepressant, right? We can talk about medications if you're interested, right? Okay, anybody else? We're going to bring it back. Yes?
I have to say anger. Nobody wants to talk about anger.
Anger, annoyance, very close emotions, right? Okay, another word. Yes? Hi. Hi. Welcome.
Thank you. So my question is, sometimes I keep thinking about purpose of life,
Yes?
and I overthink, like, okay, what I supposed to be doing, what I'm doing is right, wrong, like
Gotcha.
what is the level of enjoyment I should have by doing this activity or whatever, right? It's overthinking about like how my life should be.
Okay, so we have, let's say, certain triggers a loss, or we can have certain question of, let's say, why am I here? Existential kind of questions, purpose of life, just questions that brain can ask, okay? And that can lead to more question, and you use the word overthinking, and then you watch it go, right? So you describe that scenario. You describe anger, right? So we're going to. Anybody else? Because we're going to start soon. Yes.
I don't know, this is probably in line with what Hardy said, but if you have a lot of problems and stress, then it starts to affect your physical, like you start to get neck pain, shoulder pain.
Yes.
How do you deal with that? Like how do you make it stop?
Perfect. Okay, so that's good. So when what happens is there are three systems in our body, right? We are basically, this is a system, organization, it's like a country, right? It has to defend itself against issues. So this thing called the forebrain, humans are pretty good at defending themselves, right? That's why we kind of like dominate this world a little bit, right? Because we can use this brain to protect itself. So thinking, a baby cannot protect itself, right? So while the baby is very, very happy and very zen, a cat, a dog, they can defend themselves, right? So somewhere along the line, you got to teach that baby how to defend itself, otherwise it won't survive, right? One of the mechanisms to defense is actually thinking, right? So we put stuff in the baby's head, says, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this, right? and somewhere along the line. So what happens, that system, okay, is very effective. Sometimes it could be over-effective. It's like anything, you don't want to overdo it. So the overdoing part becomes the problem, right? So in the flow state, I would suggest to you is when you have just the right amount. You cannot be the baby that don't think, but you don't want to be the overthinker that doesn't stop, right? Because that can paralyze you, you know? So how do you be in the middle, the flow state again, right? How do you do that? Now, that's the first system. The second system is you go into the fight and flight state. The body is a chemical reaction inside, right? In order for you to fight, let's say a fire comes in here, right? Everybody's heart rate is going to go up, right? You don't have to think about it. It just happens, doesn't it? Let's say that big boom, something explodes, right? You know, you don't have to think about the body. That's a second system in your body that defends itself. It's called a fight and flight state. Okay? That's mediated by this part of the brain called the amygdala. Okay? This is a part of the brain. The fourth brain is this brain that does the thoughts. There's the midbrain. Inside the midbrain, this is called the amygdala. This is the part that mediates the fight and flight states very fast. It's called the reptilian brain. Even before the primates, before the animals develop this large neocortex, they already have the reptilian brain, like the reptiles. They can react very quick. So that's the second thing that can overreact. See, what happens is when your amygdala is triggered, all your muscle will tense up. So if you're overthinking, you don't know it, you will set off the amygdala. And you will find yourself tense up when there's no reason. There's no fire. It could be a memory. It could be a question that the brain can't answer, like, like, what's the purpose of life? It could be a question like that. It could be any question, okay? It could be a legitimate thought about, I don't do this, I'm going to not be able to pay my bills, or whatever it is. It could be a thought like that. Most of the thoughts that will loop us generally have to do with protection. Therefore, the amygdala gets triggered. When the amygdala gets triggered, your muscle will tense up. And the third thing we didn't talk about is the immune system. You see a lot of people with autoimmune disorders, right? You hear about people with allergies, food sensitivities, irritable bowels, right? Eczema, skin issues. You have arthritis. You have all kinds of problems with the immune system. So those three systems all activate. Like one is activated, all three of them will become effective. That makes sense? So the answer, okay, to your question is we have to address them all at the same time. At the same time, we need to address them all, okay? That's how we resolve the issue. So we're going to come back to that. Now, anybody else want to add anything? And we talk about medications, right? We're going to come back to that too. See, when we answer a question like, do we need something? First, we have to ask, what is it doing for us first, right? And is there another way to deal with it? If there's another way to deal with it, then you don't need it, right? It doesn't mean nobody needs it. Maybe somebody needs it sometime, but don't need it another time, right? Everything can change. So we have to address as to what it does. But before we do that, we need to come back to our experience. So, is there any more questions? Before we do our little exercise. Are we good to start? We good to start? Okay, what we're gonna do is, remember I said, you don't need to believe me, right? You have to believe your own experience, right? Just like the bicycle, right? And you don't have to understand this, that's the funny thing. The understanding is not even that important, right? It's like a baby knows how to ride a bicycle, knows how to get down those ski edges. He can't explain it to you, he just does it, right? That's what we're gonna talk about. So we're gonna do a little experience. First thing is that we ask you to close your eyes, okay? I'm gonna close my eyes at the same time, okay? We're gonna do nothing. You just give yourself this permission to do nothing, and you will discover, okay? For example, this idea that I'm gonna think, okay? Let's say you give yourself the experience of doing nothing. You allow yourself to do nothing. So therefore, you will notice anything that starts is involuntary, okay? Involuntary means that you didn't make it happen, it happens by itself, okay? So, for the next few moments, you're going to give yourself the permission to do nothing. Yet, you'll see, this idea that you're aware doesn't stop, unless you instantly fall asleep. Assuming you haven't fallen asleep, you'll notice things. But you realize You're not noticing it because you're choosing, it just happens. Because remember, you give yourself a permission to do nothing, just an experiment. But yet things are still coming to your awareness. I use the word awareness, okay? I'm using a word, that's a pretty big word. So let's agree what awareness is. Awareness just means that you are not asleep, that you're aware of something. It could be anything. So we cannot relate to that experience of not sleeping, right? Okay, so we call that awareness. And you will see things will come to your awareness. Even though you have given yourself the permission to do nothing, you will notice different things. Okay, I won't say anymore because we're just going to let it come. Okay, you'll see. So whatever notice is involuntary. It just happened to you. It's like I just say turn on the television. You don't know what show is on. You watched it. You weren't sleeping, so you noticed something, right? So what did you notice? Let's go around. Tell me 2 things that you noticed that you actually noticed. Can you start?
Sure.
What did you notice?
So by default, I was breathing.
You noticed yourself breathing. Yeah.
And I was feeling the sensation in my body.
Of air.
Not air, but just vibrations in my body.
You notice sensation in your body.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's perfect. Thank you very much. What did you notice?
Same thing, the exhalation and inhalation.
You notice the breathing.
Yeah.
No, you didn't make the breathing happen. It happened by itself, right? You didn't have to do it. That's the first thing. You're noticing it, and you notice the body.
Yeah.
What did you notice?
I noticed how like soothed I was feeling, like how calming I was feeling, but my thoughts kept going to tomorrow, to the tasks that I need to complete tomorrow, but yet I still felt soothed, like I felt relaxed.
Okay, so we use the word anxious, not use the word relax. I think they're opposite experiences, okay? They're labels. Once again, they're labels for different experiences. And you also notice the thought about tomorrow came. You didn't plan for it because when you came in here, you didn't say, well, when Dr. Yu says to do nothing, I'm going to think about tomorrow, right? Your brain just did it all by itself, didn't it, right?
And I kept trying.
So in a way that your body started to breathe is involuntary. You didn't choose it, but your brain, I call it this, you see, the brain. You see, the brain. Can you read that? Let's say body, breath, brain. So the brain. It's just like the kidneys makes pee, right? The brain makes thoughts. And your skin makes sensation, right? You just noticed it, didn't you? Okay, what did you notice, sir?
Breathing and then thoughts in my head.
Okay, you notice
Words
thoughts
in my
too,
head. Yeah.
about whatever. It doesn't matter the content.
Just words.
Thank you. Sensation, thoughts. You see what's going on? We all agree so far, right? We know the sensation, we know the thoughts. Sensation, thoughts, 2 things, right? Now we know awareness. I didn't introduce any new concept here, right? Awareness means you're not sleeping. If you're not sleeping, you notice things, right? And there's 2 things you can notice. You can either notice sensation or you can notice thoughts. Okay, let's keep going.
Neutral. I felt nothing, like no feelings, but I was calm and I noticing on the outer world. I wasn't really into anything more inwards.
Mhm.
It was more like sounds I was hearing, kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. So sound is a sensation, by the way, right? But you might notice your brain labeling. My brain says, oh, that's the vent.
Yeah.
That's called the brain braining. The brain is braining a label for a sensation. Huh? Right? You know the 5 senses that we always talk about, right? Hearing, in that case, a sensation. And the other one is a sensation of touch. And we talked about word anxious, we talked the word calm. That is a word. A baby doesn't say calm. Baby doesn't have that word. That is a baby whose brain has been taught a certain state means calm, right? Easier to know what anxious means. Calm is just the opposite, right? Anxious is very easy. For me, it feels like a little tight here, maybe, right? Maybe a little tight here. For another person, it could be the gut. They know. It's a sensation, isn't it? That's being labeled by the brain, say, this is anxious. True or no? Two things. When you say you're calm, and you said a very key word, I know there's nothing. Calm is the opposite, you see. When you don't have any of those things, when you feel nothing, you're still feeling. You just feel nothing. Nothing is still something. Or you're paying attention to something, right? And then the brain says, that's calm. Isn't that so? Okay, I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just introducing this concept like it has to be your truth. So far you only need 3 words when you leave here to understand everything. You're not sleeping. That's easy, right? And there's either a sensation or a thought. Okay, let's keep going. Would you participate? Anything you notice?
My breath.
Breath, okay. So how do you notice your breath? A lot of people say breath, right? Breath is a sensation. It could be the air going up and down here. It could be the air in the nostril. It could be your belly going in and out, right? Or it could be your diaphragm going up and down, your shoulder going up and down. Otherwise, how would you know you're breathing? You must notice something. It's a sensation of the body that the brain says, it's my breath. No. Okay. What you notice? Very similar to Rose. You just not much going on, not much going on. When you say relaxation, the word calm and relaxation, you may be labeling a very similar experience. I would call it the lack of the tension experience. The absence of the tension experience, your brain is going to say, that's calm, right? Am I right? I don't know. Okay. Okay, so Bhuvan, you're labeling a certain, I know you meditate and so on, you use the word void, okay? And you said the word nothing. I feel like somewhat similar. I don't want to say they're the same, okay? I don't want to say they're the same, but you did notice a sensation that your brain says is pain, right? When you say you have pain, it's 2 things happening. You're paying attention to a sensation in somewhere in your body, and your brain says that's pain. Just like sensation on your tongue, your brain says that's spicy, right? And then there's another one, there's another thought in there, a label, which is actually very much hidden, good and bad. There's a judgment, right? If you're in one culture, good, spicy. Another culture, bad, spicy, right? It's programmed. We talk about, like when the baby first sees the spider, he just sees a spider. And then the mother say, that's a spider. No, a label has been attached to that experience of seeing, right? And then there's another teaching that happens almost automatically. And the mother jumps back and says, oh my God, right? The baby says that's bad. Next time the baby sees that, you will get that amygdala go off, right? It's learned, isn't it? At first baby if the baby saw the spider by itself, he has no clue, probably going, right? You have no idea what it is until somebody tells it what it's called. Plus, is it good or bad? Same thing with a hot pepper on the tongue. Good or bad? Right? Okay, so let's keep going. How much time? Am I going to run out of time?
Oh, good.
Huh?
Keep going.
Okay, thank you. Oh, because I just don't want to, I want to make sure I build it up properly so everybody gets it, Okay. Okay, there's lots of stuff happen. So you notice the shoulder, first of all, there's a tension, and then your mind says, oh, that's tense, and then you notice the thoughts, other thoughts, not just the fact that my shoulder is tight, but you noticed it, and then somehow your shoulder let go. Maybe there was a thought that says you need to let go. Maybe it was in there, maybe it wasn't. And then So that's what I noticed. Again, my point is that you notice sensation, you notice thoughts. You notice sensation, you notice thoughts. And they're like always interacting with each other. Okay. Did you guys want to add anything back there, you young fellows, young lady, young people? Yes, please. Anything? No? You can think about it and you can add it, okay? Okay. What did you notice, Jack? Feel. Anything?
I'm in a moment of frustration, so for me, I'm in my own mode right now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. How about, yeah, did you want to, I'm good. I don't want, you can always pass, by the way, okay? There's no pressure. Yeah, you can always pass. Perfectly okay to pass. There's no pressure to share anything. Because remember I said, you don't need to know to how to get balance. That's a good thing. You see, being in the flow state, there's not required to have a PhD or to have a certain language, a certain culture, or certain amount of money in your bank. You know? I feel like everybody should have this. Yeah.
I notice myself being aware, trying to be aware of something, and really just obsessing on, is that what I'm aware of? No. There must be something else I'm aware of. And by the time we were done, I hadn't quite decided what I was aware of. So I don't know if I did it right.
No, it's perfect. Well, first of all, you can't get it wrong. I will reassure you, okay? There's no, you can't get this process wrong. So because you did nothing, right? You simply observe what happened. So that's very interesting. You notice, first of all, you weren't sleeping, so you were aware. So we all agree upon that, right? And then you notice that your mind was analyzing. It's trying to assess what's going on. Is this awareness? You know, it's making better stories. But there's thoughts. They're all thoughts, aren't they? As soon as you can put it into a language, it's a thought. That's a good clue. But there's other form of thought. You'll see. You can, for example, it's not thoughts are language based. There are other form of thoughts. You can have like memory can be a language based recall. But if you go around the circle, you will see we don't recall memory the same way. Some of us recall memory not with language, with visuals, with pictures. And some of us just bring up little snapshots. Some of us will bring back video, like as if they just lived there. And some of us have music to go with it, audio track. Okay, our brain are very different. You would discover, that's the beauty of us sitting in a circle. You wouldn't know this, you just assume everybody is the same as you. You would never ask this question. But when you start to get into it, you realize you could perhaps in your kid or your brother, his brain works very different. Okay? So one of the beauty of sitting in a circle like this, after a little while, you start to realize the other person doesn't see it the way I see it. They're not trying to piss me off when they say they want to have a different reaction to a certain situation than me, right? You get less frustrated. You'll see a lot of stuff. So for example, bringing up visual memory can have sound. It could be just language based. It could even be tactile based. They can actually feel it. There are people who can bring back the feeling. Like if I say bring back the feeling of velvet on your skin, some of you can bring it back. Some of you cannot, right? It's the same thing with all senses. Okay, so let's keep going, all right? Please. Now you talked about lots of thoughts, so that was your initial thing. Let's see what happened this time. I'm curious.
So I cheated a little. I was sitting here trying to do nothing, and I do practice meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So I opened my eyes just a little bit, and I focused on the glittering of the candles, and I started to notice my breathing, and I was focusing on the breathing. And I had the exact opposite because my knee is killing me and it didn't hurt at all while I was doing that.
Mm.
But I kept focusing on trying to do nothing. So my mind was, yeah, talking.
Okay, so let me add to that now, okay? So remember I said to do nothing, right? Or rather give yourself permission to do nothing. And you recognize even attempt to do nothing is actually something. Because now you're doing something, right? But you didn't do anything wrong, and you didn't cheat. Like you basically have learned certain meditation practice, and you went right back to it without even trying. You just started, right? It's involuntary. Okay? That's why you will see. You will see that this attempt to stop thinking is really, it's just another thought that's showing up. A baby doesn't do that. A baby does not meditate. The baby does not say, I'm going to stop thinking. right? The babies, that's called or stop. What's that?
They don't stop trying.
Until their diapers change or fed, right? They're simply reacting to a sensory experience.
From the outside.
And the good and bad, oh, you're a good boy for not crying, is a label now, right? Somewhere along the line, the baby learned the good and bad concepts through all the labels of whatever is happening. So this is a separation. I just want to separate it from that, okay? Thank you.
Can you bring a vet in and tell us why the puppy doesn't understand? Good or bad?
Yeah. And we don't get mad at it somehow, right? We just kind of accept it. Somehow we expect more.
Before she says, there's a quote by John Lennon. John Lennon said that no time was wasted when you were thinking or doing nothing.
Oh, John
John Lennon.
Lennon. Okay.
From the Beatles, when
Let it be.
all the time you did nothing, it wasn't wasted.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you.
I notice darkness, like looking through your eyelids,
Mhm.
the darkness and the sounds of the world. That's what I noticed.
Okay, so not too many thoughts. You didn't mention too many thoughts. Well, that's interesting, right? Okay, you will notice if you went home and did this experiment anytime, right? Let's say tonight you can't sleep. A lot of times people can't sleep, right? Right? What you do is you just simply allow yourself to let the brain and just realize it ain't you. It's just a brain braining. Let it run, and you see what will happen. And any attempt to stop it is just more braining. When you can see the layers past that, let's see what happens. Okay? So you don't even have to try to meditate. Okay, whatever meditation might mean to you, just try something different. You will see. Okay, let me keep going. What did you notice, sir?
At first it was very serene, and then the longer it went on, the more I was fighting with myself to keep thoughts from coming in. You know what I mean? So it felt good to be relaxed, but it doesn't last.
You were fighting with yourself to keep the thoughts from coming in.
Yeah, like my mind won't settle like that. I mean, I try at night and stuff like that. I've done meditation. I've done all kinds of different things to try, but it just seems like if I sit still for 10 seconds or whatever, then things keep trying to invade my head. So I
Okay.
keep trying to push them out to try and stay in the state. You know what I mean?
Yes, okay, so you have developed a space between you and your thoughts. Okay, you're watching this thought, realizing, use the word invade. So you have a sense that this thought is not you, right? It's just your brain braining, right? So you've got that part. Now the next layer that traps you is trying to stop it. And that is also the brain braining. Okay? Once you see that next layer, things will change. So you have to, in fact, let it come. You have to say, okay, thought come. And when you see yourself trying to stop it,
It doesn't come one at a time. It comes like
and when you try to make it come, it won't come no more. But you will see, okay? This brain is incredible. Like it's got so much story into it, and the brain can do all kinds of stuff for you. But the key, I'll show you how to do it because you can actually. I'm going to come back at the end. Very shortly. I'm going to tell you. I just want to go around what you could do. Okay? Why is that so hard? There's a reason why it's so hard. That you cannot separate yourself from the thoughts. There's a quote from Viktor Frankl. You know who Viktor Frankl is? Viktor Frankl? Anybody know? That Jewish psychiatrist? Okay? He survived the Holocaust in the concentration camp, and people were just like offering themselves. They all gave up, all depressed. And they said, this is not worth living. I don't want to live like this, right? People are just like, they won't eat, they'll starve themselves to death. But this guy, somehow he survived. He says, genuine freedom. We talk about freedom. He said, between the trigger and the reaction, there's a space. In that space, okay, is your freedom. So when a trigger comes, a picture on the wall, there's a reaction. The brain is going to create a thought, right? And that thought, it says that of, let's say, somebody dear to you, right? That's past, right? For example, I'm just using that example if I may, okay? So there's another thought that I should be, missing, right? There's another thought in there, right? It says that I wish she should be back. Or it could be a guilty thought. Sometimes people feel guilty. People says, I should have spent more time with them. I'm not saying that's your case, but sometimes they happen. So those thoughts are triggering each other. Right? Viktor Frankl is talking about the space between those thoughts. You start to realize after a little while, when you sit with those thoughts, if you allow them to come, you will realize all those thoughts are not you. All of them. Okay? Some of them are very, very subtle. Very, very subtle thoughts. So it takes a while to learn this. To see that they're all separate than you. And then you'll have a different experience. Your brain will still do the same thing, but this chemistry inside your body doesn't go all over the place no more. Okay? That chemistry in your body, we talk about the amygdala, right? That's the chemistry the drugs are working on. Okay? We are basically beakers of chemistry. That chemistry is invoked by the amygdala, okay? The midbrain. That chemistry inside, we got the dopamine, the epinephrine, the serotonin, and those words, right? All those words, oxytocin, all those words are chemistry in our body. That determines, so when you feel stressed out, okay, when the brain says I'm stressed, the brain is labeling a sensory experience of the chemistry in your bloodstream. At that moment, it changes all the time. It's always changing, right? If there's a fire in here, that chemistry will suddenly go up. But there's no fire in here. A certain memory come up, let's say what happened early in the day. Oh, I should have said that. I could have said that. Why did I do that? You know? That shouldn't have happened. Any kind of thought that shows up. If they trap you, your chemistry will go crazy. Because you could be trapped for a long time without knowing. And you could even be doing your work that's not super engaging. So part of your brain is doing ruminating. And you don't know you're doing this. Except you know that you can't get the job done, and the job is not very enjoyable, right? And you're not that efficient. A job that takes 2 hours, it's taking you 4 hours, and you got half done, right? Because part of your brain is doing this, right? And because you don't know it's doing this, the chemistry is all messed up. Because the chemistry, your body doesn't know. Your body is reacting to what the brain is looping, right? So you will see this when you become in the moment. You will notice. The thoughts will still come, but they become so light and fleeting, as if they don't stick with you. Same thoughts will come, but the chemistry don't get messed up no more, because you're not looped. You start to see it. You're going to develop that space. Viktor Frankl was talking about that space. You realize all this is just the brain brain. None of it's you. Okay, but there's a way to do it. I haven't told you how yet. Let's keep going.
I just had thoughts mostly about summer and just auditory sensations.
Okay, thank you. That sounds pleasant.
I didn't want to close my eyes for other historical reasons, and I didn't. And then when I felt like I could close my eyes, and I did, so I just didn't allow them to go too far into those two spaces.
Thank you. Okay.
I let myself go back to the annoyance experience, and I actually felt like I was put into a larger space that caused the annoyance to definitely dissipate and evaporate and be less intensive, and I felt lighter. So for me, those few moments were actually therapeutic. I felt some freedom.
Thank you so much. See the difference? When we're looped, okay, by our mind. See, when we're driving to work, if something happened, you're still thinking about work, you don't recollect the entire drive. You just know that you drove because you're on the driveway, you're sitting in the driver's seat, but you don't remember the drive, 100%. Your mind's thinking about what happened at work, what happened somewhere else, and you didn't pick up the milk, so now you're in trouble with your wife, all right? So, that period of time when you're looped, all right, you basically, it's because you can't tell the difference between you and your thoughts. You're actually looped in. Because the character in those thoughts generally are you. You'd rarely get looped if the thought's about something else. If about your friend, it wouldn't happen. Because the story that the brain is playing out, if the character is you, right? The difference is you can have that brain play out. If you're not looped, it's just like watching a TV show. So what Hardy just said is this: your brain, even though you didn't try, right? Your brain started to play out this annoying kind of a scenario, right? You didn't decide to do it. I mean, you allow yourself to do nothing, but yet the story came up. But this time the story came up, you were watching the story. Even though you're the character in there, but you're watching the show. You know it's not you. That's why the chemistry didn't change this time. So the experience is not annoyance no more. Because if it's not associated with the chemistry, that's kind of like this. It's not charged up. Because you're watching a show. It's different than if you're in the show. That is the difference when you become in the flow state. So you will develop that space. So you're going to have a certain story play out about a certain person that you miss, but you will have that story immediately replace another story. There will be other stories that your brain can bring because you're not trapped by the first story. There will be other stories like gratitude. Oh, I'm so glad I had this person in my life, right? The stuff that you read about that's sometimes not accessible to you because you're trapped by the first story. When you're not trapped by the first story, you'll see a whole bunch of stories come up, right? And also open it out. And then just like you just pick the story that works for you. And you don't even have to pick. The right one will come to you. This is what gratitude is. Because the story of gratitude, the fact that we're here, right? It's a story. It's amazing, right? That we're here, right? Why is that story always not accessible to us? It's because we're looped by another story. So when you become present in the here and now, right? You automatically have all the wonderful things. Courage, creativity, efficiency, gratitude, compassion for others, compassion for yourself. They're not something you try to get to. They're a manifestation of you being in the here and now, that you have uncovered that space between you and this brain that's just braining, this body that's just bodying. You see? Being present is the key. And I'll show you how to do that, okay? Otherwise, it's no use. We'll talk about nothing. All right? Okay. Thank you. Oh, anything you want to say there? Anything you notice?
It's fun. It was relaxing.
Relaxing? Okay.
Visual auditory sensations and then just comfort.
So calm. Did you say visual?
Yeah, I can see the candles with my eyes shut. I can still see the candles with my eyes shut. And
As bright as that, or just through the eyelids?
No, through the eyelids.
Okay. So the visual signals, and then there's the brain says I'm calm, which means the body is a certain chemical state, right? Not in a fight and flight state. The lack of the fight and flight state is basically calm, right? We are basically by default all calm. Unless the baby's hungry, the baby's happy. Yes.
I found myself, the only way to describe it is relaxed. I did a little body scan and everything was just melted, pretty nice. And then I heard steps and something rolling. And I thought to myself, which I caught myself later on, how many people kept their eyes closed? Were there people who had to open their eyes because they heard the sound of steps?
Mm-hmm.
Then I understood that I just had a thought running through my head, and then after I thought, so I observed myself having a thought, so now I'm on the third level. Okay, I have to quit this. That was it.
Thank you. Okay, thoughts. Perfect. But you saw them, okay? You just keep practicing, you will see. But there's another thing I'm going to tell you very soon. Very, very important. The key, okay? There's a key. But first you have to understand why. Okay.
For me, I had tension in my back, so as though some tension I could feel in my back, and then heaviness of sleep kind of on my eyes. So, heaviness and tension.
Sensation, okay? Sensation, tension in your body is two things. Sensation, where the brain says that's tension. The baby doesn't say that. Baby don't feel tension, right? If the baby is cold, the baby's muscle might tense up. But the baby doesn't say, I'm tense. The baby doesn't say, I'm cold even, right? Until the baby learns this, right? And then the baby cries. There's a reaction to being uncomfortable. The baby cries for everything, right? When they're not comfortable. So you see the difference? Okay, so far, we all agree that what awareness is, right? I don't want to introduce any words that you have to believe me. It's your experience now. You have experience awareness. you have experienced thoughts, right? You have experienced sensations, correct? Okay, so now our challenge is to be in the moment. So we already discovered why we're not in the moment. We're not in the moment because the thought loops us, right? Somebody used the word overthinking, right? So we have lots of thoughts. So for example, this is a problem. We already talked about why overthinking is a problem, right? The athletes knows they're going to not get a medal. The artist knows because they're not creative. The scientist knows because they don't come up with the right answer. They got to go take a shower, take a break. All of a sudden, oh yeah, this is how you do this problem, right? And the people who want to sleep can't sleep because the brain's going, right? Right? And if your brain is doing this all the time, your body tenses up. And if you do that long enough, you're going to get autoimmune disorders, right? You're going to have injuries to your neck, but you won't relax. So the car accident could be 20 years ago. Your muscles still tense. It doesn't want to let go, right? So you create all kinds of problems. So we already know overthinking is not a good thing, right? How do you, but you cannot just stop thinking, right? Some people try by drinking, right? But it doesn't work. It has problems, right? You can also distract yourself from overthinking, right? By just keep doing something, right? That's why you say, keep busy, keep busy, keep busy. As long as you keep busy, you're okay. But that don't work either, because sometimes you can't keep busy, right? That's why holiday comes along, weekend comes along, when people don't have things to do. That's when they go, COVID comes along, you know, all of a sudden they're in trouble, right? Because they can't distract themselves no more. So distraction works, but not the best solution either. They all have challenges, right? Okay. So it comes to how do we not get looped? Being in the moment is important, and the reason we're not in the moment is because because we don't have that space, right? In that moment, because the story's main character is Carlos, is me, is mine, is those words in there. You just watch those keywords. When you have a story with I, me, or mine, right? They loop you. The stories doesn't have I, me, or mine, don't have the tendency to do that to you, okay? I was wronged, right? I miss you, okay? And another class of words that loop you in your mind, you watch those ones, it's judgment thoughts. I hate this, I love this. The loved one can loop you too, right? I hate it, right? I like, I don't like, right? The judgment ones, the ones that's always good and bad, those thoughts, right? Why? Because they're attached to danger, right? Or craving, or pleasure, right? And then, the third type of words that loop you is the absolute words. You know how they say never? Well, those words, you always question yourself, right? The never, I will never be happy. Ooh, that thought will loop you such a hurry. You catch those thoughts like, woo! Otherwise, they're the rabbit hole that Lewis Carroll about. You know Alice in the Wonderland? Well, that's the story I think he was talking about. Alice in the Wonderland, the rabbit hole. It has no bottom. You can keep going down. Things just get weirder and weirder and weirder. But you gotta catch it before you go down. But some of those holes are very, very tricky. Okay? Very tricky. But you'll figure it out. So the reason we are not in the moment is because we got looped by our thoughts. Am I right? Happy, right? Okay. And so there's a solution. Okay, how do you get not looped by your thought? The reason we get looped by our thought is because we can't tell the difference between us and the thought no more. Instead of you realizing this brain is just braining involuntarily, no different than your kidneying, right? See, the kidneys makes pee. The brains makes thoughts. See, we're not our brain, we're not our thoughts. Just like we're not our kidney and we're not our pee. It just keeps going in this, right? But that space, sometimes you can't figure it out, right? In that loop. So there's a way though. Okay, now I'm going to tell you how, okay? See, we talk about, what are the 3 words we talked about so far? Let's review. 3 words only. What are they? Let's see. First one. Only 3 words we need to know. What's the first word? Awareness. What's the second word? Thoughts. Okay, or sensation, right? The third word, thoughts. Doesn't matter what order, right? So you have awareness. Any given moment, you can pay attention to either thoughts or sensation, correct? I haven't seen anything else, right? It's either a thought or a sensation. It could be a thought labeling a thought. It could be a thought labeling a sensation, right? The sensation could be everywhere outside. coming from the inside. It could be inside, it could be anywhere. I don't even know where they come from some days, right? Sensations everywhere, thoughts everywhere. But there are only two things. Okay. Have you ever watched Netflix and you can't stop? Right? You want to watch, you binge watch, you know that idea of binge watching, right? It's because the people who write those scripts, they know. If they make the character relatable, eventually you think you're the character. You care about the character so much, okay? You are the character now. That's why you can't stop. It's just like your mind looped. Except the movie does this for you, right? They do this. And it's great. In a way, it's our gift. That's how you enjoy the show. You can identify with it. There's nothing wrong with it, okay? Okay, so the reason we get looped by our thought is because we are only paying attention to our thought. Nothing else. Because when you watch on Netflix, you're not paying attention to nothing else. Eventually, so the reason we're doing this is because we become so engrossed in it. So that's why you see, in our life, right, when we live in cities, we require lots of thoughts in order to get things done. You're paid. When you go to work, you're paid, most of us in the office setting, paid to think, right? You're being paid for your brain to brain. Okay, you have been given a bunch of instructions, and you basically your brain has been wired to follow those instructions. Do this, do this, do this. You do this all day. Eventually, you and your brain can separate itself no more. You get the job done perfect, you get paid. But when you go home, the brain is kind of like a runaway engine. It keeps going. Now, it doesn't have that job to do that pays you, but you keep doing it, right? And you get to work for it for nothing. Right? You get an assignment on Friday, they say don't do it till Monday. But because you can't stop thinking about it, you get it all done by Sunday. And nobody paid you. Right? Those people, employers love. Because you work for nothing. Right? Okay. Or if you don't have a job to do, your brain is going to find some other things to do. And you start braining. So what is the solution? Right? It has to do with the third thing. What's the third thing? We talk about awareness, we talk about thought. What's the third thing? Sensation. Yes, that's the key. Okay? If you are if you're driving, okay? If you're driving home, if you actually can feel any part of your body, as long as you're sensory aware, you cannot be looped. So if I ask you this question, okay, right now, are you in the moment or are you looped by your mind? How would you know? If I go around and says, ask yourself this question, are you looped right now? How would you know? Are you looped? Are you looped? Are you looped? Are you looped? You know how you know? How do you know? Like, let's say you caught yourself being annoyed, or if you caught yourself being anxious, right? Usually it's because you're looped, right? Right? So, but that moment when you catch it, you're out of the loop. Otherwise, you can't catch it, right? You know, when you're driving, if you're looped, you don't know until you stop the car and you say, oh, I was looped. But during that time, you don't know you're looped. So the moment you catch yourself being annoyed, that label comes up in your brain, I'm annoyed. At that moment, for one moment, okay, very short moment, you could be like right into it. You could say, I'm going to go and like chase him down, road rage, right? I'm going to get back at him, or you know what, I'm a bad person for being annoyed. Whatever the next thought comes up, okay? Depends which therapist you went to, You get a lot of thoughts. Okay, but you're into the thoughts again, right? How do you know you're not looped? How do you know? Okay. This is how it works. Try, okay? Next time you catch yourself, any kind of, if your thoughts have those I, me, or mine in there, right? And you have those absolute judgment thoughts in there, I don't like, I like, I hate, like this, hey, oh, this, you watch social media, you get those feelings very quick, right? What's going on, right? In politics, you see yourself doing this. And then you will notice, oh my gosh, this is never going to go away, this is going to be horrible, that kind of thoughts, right? How's it going to affect me? Those are the thoughts. And then you will notice a chemistry in your blood. You start to give you that, it's like a tempest. That beaker of chemistry in your blood start to do this, roaring. You'll feel it. You don't feel relaxed no more. You feel your brain's going to say, I'm tense, right? If you went to see the doctor say you have anxiety disorder, right? But it's just a label, right? But this is what you're noticing. When that happens, you're no longer, for a moment, you have a tiny little moment. At that moment is the key when you get back to your body. Because as long as you hang on to a sensation, you're out of the loop. You'll stay out of the loop. That's the key. You have to find the sensation. Okay, I'll tell you, all know this already. Okay, I'll give you a bunch of examples why this is true. Why is it that we listen to music? Okay, because it brings you the moment. Why is that you go for massage? Because it puts you in the moment. What's the music? Is sensation. You see, you know the people that like listening to music, they like the bass beat. Right? They like boom, boom. They feel something in their body. If you get a massage, you feel in your body. People do aromatherapy. People look at candles, they're flickering. It's a sensation. It's a neutral sensation. Those sensations don't bring judgments. You don't want to use painful sensation because that's already very, very conditioned to be bad, right? So the things that helps you be relaxed is always a sensory thing. You go exercise, you do yoga. After you 20 minutes of yoga or chair yoga, look at this. What am I doing? I'm paying attention to the proprioceptors, the little nerve endings in my joints. In order for me to keep my balance, I have to focus on that. If I do this long enough, I'm out of my mind now. I'm no longer looped. I feel so relaxed. I go home, exercise, right? Trail running. People run. People go look at woods. People look at birds. People play with their dogs, with their pets, because the pets don't judge you. The pets is not like your boss or your family. They don't piss you off, right? They can pee all over the place. You're still okay with them. Right? Play with babies, right? People love babies. People love their pets because they bring you back into the here and now. Because they don't trigger thoughts. Bills trigger thoughts. That's why when you stay home, you get all stressed out. When you leave, the bills are still there, but you're not triggering you no more. So you go on vacation, and then you think the vacation is what you need. No. Right? Because then people start to live craving for vacation. When they're on vacation, they're no longer happy because they think, oh, my vacation is going to end. And they suffer. The Sunday syndrome, right? Yeah. You see? So the suffering comes from being looped. And being present comes from paying attention to your sensation. Okay? But you don't want to have to go for massage all the time. You don't want to have music blasting all the time. You can be on vacation all the time. You can get away from your family because you love them. Right? So, you have to find the sensation which is very subtle that you train yourself to pay attention to. That's the key. Right? If you can always, even yoga, wonderful. But you can do it all the time. You want to go to sleep at night, right? You can be doing yoga while sleeping, right? So you need a sensation that anyone can access, okay? That anyone can access. Okay, you know this guy by the name of Buddha? Yeah. I know some of you guys are Buddhists, right? But Buddhist is a religion. But Buddha is not a religion, it's a man, okay? There are a lot of Buddhas. They have figured this out. They figure out how to stay in the moment. Okay, they try to teach people this. So, he teaches you this very simple technique. It's called subtle sensation awareness training. I reframe it, okay? Subtle. If you have to pay attention to a strong sensation, that's not training. Anybody can do it. But you cannot have a strong sensation like loud music, like running trail when you try to go to sleep. It's not always accessible. If you have work to do, you got a job to do, you want to still be in the moment. If you're in the moment, it's the students, you got to know this, man. You guys are only like grade 11 or grade 9, grade 10. If you know this now, oh my gosh, your life will be different, right? You will be so focused, right? You'll be so much in the moment. You train. You go learn what's called Anapana, okay? Anapana, but let me translate for you. It's sensory awareness training of this spot right here. This right here, that's it. That's all you have to learn, right? Everybody's got a lip, right? You don't have to have a certain, everybody's got a lip. And everybody breathe. And that sensation there is generally is neutral. I would say for most people that is the right place. Not 100%, there ain't no 100% anything. That may not work for you, but you work for most people, right? If you train yourself to pay attention to the existence of your lip, the sensation that right here, you're training, but every time you train, you get better at it. You accumulate. It's just like you put money in the bank. You keep growing dividends. You just get bigger and bigger. Your awareness of that area becomes so strong, you keep in the moment all the time. It's subtle, therefore it takes training. You can't do this right away. You can feel your lips right now, can't you? So next time you feel annoyed, simply bring your awareness to the sensation. Now, there's a pitfall here. If you're a visualizer, you will immediately visualize your lip. That's not it, because that's a thought. That's a thought awareness training. If you simply visualize, or you just, right, you can, and second pitfall, your mind is still talking. Your brain is still braining. Don't try to stop it. Because if you try to stop it, you're just participating. You can't stop it anyways, okay? Any attempt to stop it is just more braining. You just have to recognize this is so you just have to pay attention to this. But this thing will keep coming. The brain will keep coming in like this. You just practice staying with this. That's it. It's a little bit complicated. I want to just give you enough, okay? I don't know how we're going to take you further than this, but I will give you the concept. It's very simple, right? And in fact, you'll see the benefit right away. So tonight, if you have trouble sleeping, okay, give yourself the permission to allow the brain. Give yourself to do nothing. So just recognize, no matter what your brain is doing, it's okay. It's just like if your kidney is busy, it's okay. Because you drank a lot of water. You don't have to stop it. You can't. Anyways, right? Just let the brain brain. Let the brain brain. And see what happens. Just try it. But at the same time, bring your awareness to this spot right here. This spot is a very beautiful spot. There's more reason why this, I tell you one more reason why this is such an important spot. This guy's genius that figured this out, okay? This spot, okay, the sensation. Right now, if you feel your lip, not everyone, one of you can do it. Can you all do it? Chances are no, okay? Usually, you can't all do it, but it will come to you if you practice in the beginning. You might need a quieter spot, close your eyes. You might need a guy like me to help you, right? If you put your hand together like this, another experiment. Put your hand together like this, about 1 inch apart or half an inch apart, and tell me what you feel in between you.
Cool.
Huh?
Cool.
Okay, what do you feel? Anybody feel? Everybody? Okay, warm? Yeah. Doesn't matter what it is. That's just a brain label. The truth is that you felt something. Otherwise, you cannot label. Correct? Okay? See? It doesn't matter how the brain labels. Underneath the label, there's a sensation that you're aware of. Anything? What do you feel? Zero? So that's because your awareness is thought right now. Because the brain says nothing. What's a thought?
I feel.
If you wait, see this brain is just labeling, but keep on noticing. You'll see it will come to you gradually. It takes time. Because the brain says no, then you may stop paying attention, that's all. So if you simply realize this brain is just saying no, it's okay, whatever. Let's just keep going and see what you're aware of. What do you notice? Anybody notice?
Yeah, I feel like some sort of energy between my two palms.
Doesn't matter what label you use, it's a sensation, okay? Sensation. We use the word energy, we use cold, we use warm, whatever word you want to use. Buzzy, it doesn't matter what it is. Everybody can feel something. You can use this. Next time you feel yourself annoyed or something, you could try this. But that's not the best thing to do because you're trying to sleep. You don't want to do this, right? If you're talking to people, they don't know what you're doing, right? If you're at a meeting somewhere, you're in class, you can try this. When you're in class, your mind starts to wander away, okay? You pay attention to this, and you'll see whatever the teacher says will go straight in. You don't have to try to learn. You become like that baby that learned 5 languages at the same time. You become genius. You get your job done so much faster. If you simply stay in the here and now, learning is not what we think it is. Like that baby learns because he's in the moment. Animals learn because they're in the moment, right? So trying to learn, in fact, will slow you down. Stay in the moment is when you're the most creative, you learn the fastest. What happened? Yeah, you don't have to listen. You just have to in the moment. Your ears will do the listening for you. Your brain will analyze. Your memory will get stored. Just like that baby. You have only one thing to do, is to be in the moment. And all you have to do is to be sensory aware. That's all you need to do. Sensory aware is all you need. So try this, right? There's many, many ways to do it, but this is the way that's universal. And I didn't tell you the last thing. I'll tell you one more thing. Then we'll ask you guys to have some questions perhaps. Is that this sensation is magic. Because remember that chemistry in your body that I told you about? When it gets all messed up because we're looped by thoughts of self-preservation, right? When that chemistry starts to get messed up, that chemistry is preparing your body to run or to fight, right? And guess what you need to do to run and fight? You need increased blood pressure, right? You need faster heart rate, and you need to breathe faster. That's the third thing. When you breathe faster, that sensation would light up. You're already trained. You're already very aware of the sensation. All of a sudden, the sensation go pop, and you'll pop you right back into the moment again. Because you have become sensory aware. You're out of the loop. So the loop will bring you out of the loop through this mechanism. You follow so far? This is called the reflex of the hip and neck. You don't have to think no more. You just have to. So that's why you just simply have to do this one simple exercise. That's all you gotta do. And the rest will just come naturally. That's it. I didn't make it up. Mr. Buddha, thank you. So you can try. Now, don't believe me, man. Don't believe anything. There's nothing to believe. That will be called religion, right? This is your experiential truth, right? Experiential truth is you test it. Okay, so far I only give you 3 words: awareness, right? Sensation and thought. It's like you have a teacup and a saucer. The problem is that we keep looking at the teacup, we forget that we're not the teacup. So, if you want to know you're not a teacup, you just have to be aware that there's a teacup and a saucer, and you become the person that's watching it, that's all. That's all you need to do. Any attempt to get rid of your thought is just more thoughts, just more teacups. Right? Any attempt to change the way you think is just more teacups. So if you want to be more positive, you want to be a better version of yourself, you want to come to terms with all those childhood issues that you have in your life, more teacups. They don't get you out of it. Get back to the here and now. So you got to be careful what you read. Sensation is all you need. Very fair, man. Life is pretty fair in this sense. Everybody can have it. To be in the here and now is your superpower, your birthright, and everybody can have it. You don't have to be super intelligent. You don't have to have a certain language background. You don't have to have a certain sort of whatever. As long as you have awareness, sensation, and thoughts. That's all you do. Okay, so any questions, any?
Did you say that was the habit of be here and now?
The reflex of the here and now.
The reflex of the here and now.
Here and now. You know that Power of Now? Have you ever read that book?
There's so many out there.
There's so many about here and now, right? Slow down, smell the roses, be in the here and now. Don't be elsewhere. But they don't tell you how to do it, right?
Yeah.
They don't tell you how to do it.
All books say so.
They say just be in the here and now, be in the here and now. But just the idea I should be in the here and now can get me out of the here and now, can it?
They don't feel
Because now I'm judging myself for not being in the here and now. So you just watch. The brain's doing this is because all these ideas, once upon a time, we were all babies in the bassinet, don't have any of those ideas. And we're all in the here and now. We just have to recognize every single thought that comes up, they're all conditioned. And they're involuntary. So it's built into our language, right? It kind of loops us. I think this. It's the brain that's doing things. The I that's watching this happening is the one that's paying attention to the sensation. The I that's in your word, in your language, I'm happy, that I ain't you. That sentence is the brain braining. You learned it somewhere along the line. The true I, the true you, is the one paying attention to sensation. That is the real you. So until you're paying attention to sensation, you will get looped by your mind.
Can you say a bit about medications? And I'm talking not only prescription medications, but also what is sometimes in the category of nature medicines, like in this whole loop.
Okay, so like psychedelics, you mean? Like,
Well, and I'm also
like-
talking about antidepressants, et cetera.
Okay.
You know, just a few words about how supplements, medications, play into this breaking the loop.
Okay, so that's useful, okay? So we talk about integrative approach to the whole thing. We have to address everything, right? So you know you get hangry if you don't have enough food in your stomach. Very hard to be in the moment because you get triggered by those sensations in your stomach and your chemistry start to get messed up because your chemistry is saying that, you know, being hungry is like a fight and flight state. Your body, your blood pressure starts, you get tensed up, your muscle tense because you're hungry. So if you, in the beginning, is trying to navigate back to the here and now, you need to, it's easier if you create a very, very sort of a, optimize your physical environment, like eating properly, sleeping properly, getting enough exercise. It's very important, right? And food is complicated. Sometimes we miss certain nutrients, so having a very variety of diet is very important. We miss stuff, hence supplements. Because our diet is too narrow. Our diet is grown in greenhouses, and we follow our taste buds, but we don't follow, like we generally eat a very narrow diet. We get liking certain foods, and then we keep eating the same food. And we end up getting an insufficient amount of nutrients. So that's why the idea of supplements. But you should be able to get food, generally speaking, just from natural food itself. Even the supplement itself, you know, it's kind of like it's shoring you up. I'm not saying it's bad, not ideal, okay? But understand the principle. I'm not saying it's wrong or good or wrong, but it's just simply realizing that you need variety. And two, we get a lot of chemicals that we don't need, right? So go eat organic food. So that's about foods and supplements. Exercise, having adequate sleep, right? Don't get yourself into places where you're gonna loop your mind a lot unnecessarily. So for example, after somebody's paid you already to do your braining, when you go home, don't brain. Don't do anything that requires braining, take a break. If you got your bills paid and so on and so forth, take a break. That don't need braining anymore, right? Because your survival for braining is done. So find something that's sensory. Do something that's sensory based. I say, you know, like you don't want to play video games to loop your brain into thinking, right? You don't want to be doing that, even though that can help people distract themselves from other stuff. That's why kids play video games, to distract them from those thoughts. Oh, I'm gonna fail, or I'm, you know, mom and dad issues, whatever issues, right? So a lot of times video game is a distraction, but it's not the best type of distraction because you are now training yourself to be paying attention to your braining again. So you want to pay attention to sensory things, like music, for example. See, I started with the music, right? When you listen to music, feel the music. It's a sensation that you want to go to. When you go to exercise, sensation, yoga, sensation. You're not trying to be the best person in that yoga room. That's thinking again. Go to your body. Okay? So anything that gets to your body will help you. So when I don't get paid, I don't pay attention to my brain no more.
It's about making the time, you know, and not a lot.
So it's very, very dear time. So you have to make sure whatever time you have is for that purpose, right?
It's about making the time and taking care of yourself and focusing on, you know what, I'll deal with this today. Tomorrow, who cares? Today is this, and I'm gonna do this for myself. I'm gonna cut everything off. I'm done work, close the doors, and I'm gonna look for activities, for exercise to keep me happy, to keep this aura and meet the moment. And I think that's very important because, you know, there's a lot of us that are getting older and we're just focusing and go, but you need to stop and say, hey, that's enough. I'm gonna come home, close the door.
Don't watch the social media.
And come to this type of activities. But it's again, right, you gotta make the time. A lot of people get caught up with everything and I gotta do this and I gotta do this and I'm busy. Okay, well then you're drowning in your own glass of water.
I don't blame nobody for being in that state, by the way, okay? People in that state, there's no judgment because I used to be there. And I realized I'm this happy place for the last 10 years. For me, it's the stars lined up for me. So it's like chicken and egg. Like the fact that you have that sort of a perspective, you have to be able to access it. Like a lot of us know what to do, but we don't do it. It's because we're not in the moment. So we don't actually, so a lot of very epiphanies are not accessible to us.
If you don't take those steps, what happens? Medication comes in, and you've got to look for certain medications and sometimes not everything, but some of these can be avoided by you looking after yourself, by living the moment, by making time to yourself, because bills are going to be there tomorrow, mortgage is going to be there tomorrow, life is going to go on and on.
So the key is that, see, those ideas that you have are very powerful. However, okay, more important is that you can access them in the moment. So some of those ideas can actually loop you, because you might find yourself not able to do what you think you should do. Next moment you have another thought saying, how come I'm not doing it? So for people that can do it, great. For people that can't do it, I would say, don't blame yourself. You simply have to go to the sensation, and those truths this lady is talking about will come to you. You all have it. Who doesn't know that? Everybody knows to stay in the moment, but they don't. It's like there's all this wonderful diet out there. How come there's so many? Because they're not in the moment. They're using food to stay in the moment. They're using food as a distraction. So, okay, let's go back to how much time? I don't know, I didn't answer your question about medications.
5 minutes, and then if anyone wants to, further the conversation personally, but just to honor everyone's kind of time commitment, let's say.
Yeah, I think we can finish up, okay? Because I think the medication piece, we can reserve for a different time.
Yeah.
Because it's a big topic.
Yeah.
If I open it up now, I feel like I can't do it justice.
I hear you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I feel like I'd rather leave an extra 5 minutes. You know what we could do though? I'm gonna turn on the music again. All right? But this time I invite you, close your eyes. Why do you close your eyes? Because visual signals causes the brain to label everything. We're very visual creatures, okay? Why do we close our eyes? So if you feel safe to close your eyes, maybe by now you would, okay? I invite you to do so. And just do nothing. You give yourself permission to do nothing. Let you feel the music, the vibration. And listen. When you listen to music, I invite you to not listen to the loudest sound. Listen to the most subtle sound. Not to listen to the middle of the phrase. Listen to the space between the phrases. And when you listen, don't just listen with your ears. Listen with your body. Listen with your skin. Listen with your entire body. See what happens. Because when you do that, you're 100% in the moment. And when you're in the moment, guess what happened to the chemistry? You see what happens, okay? I'm going to turn on the music now. Hold on.
Are we going to run it through the system?
Do you want me to do that?